sense that a storm is coming. They're calling me out to play. Got a feeling I'm gonna win, and they think that I don't have game. I know before I've had a few falls, I've got dirt all on my face. Baby, today I'm gonna win, and you're gonna remember my name. You're gonna remember my name. You're gonna remember my name. I've got a feeling you're gonna remember my name.
Hello, and welcome to Scoop. I'm Dr. Kenneth Hamilton, the Superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District and your host. Scoop is a monthly conversation among students, stakeholders, and administrators to provide the Mount Vernon community greater insight into the ongoing developments in the Mount Vernon City School District. We are proud to be producing this series from the home of the Knights, Mount Vernon High School state-of-the-art production studio, under the management of Jeff Corsello, a 23-year veteran instructor with our district. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I am honored and excited to be at the helm of this historic district. My first 6 months in the district, I have learned that there are dedicated, hardworking staff, brilliant students, a supportive community, and hopeful, optimistic parents who are looking forward to establishing a new paradigm of excellence in our community. So let me begin by telling you a little bit about myself and my family. First and foremost, I am a husband and a father. My wife, Maria, and I have 2 adult sons who are forging their own paths in the career of education. I got my start as a special educator in the city of Newark, and I served as a vice principal, assistant superintendent, and a superintendent. Throughout my career, I have formed some strategic relationships with national educational leaders, and I look forward to using that knowledge and expertise to bring new change into Mount Vernon. I am also a writer and a producer, and I have a soft spot for the arts and its power to transform. For many youngsters, the arts is the bridge to close the gap. I look forward to bringing all of my knowledge and resources to bear the impact on our students and our district and produce competitive young adults ready to accept the challenges of the world ahead. I deeply believe in a quality and comprehensive education for all students. I take it very seriously that you have entrusted the young people of this community to my leadership and the care and expertise of our capable staff. So let me begin by introducing some new members of our leadership team and talk a bit about their responsibilities. Dr. Jeff Gorman is our Deputy Superintendent. Ken Silver is our Assistant Superintendent for Business. Mrs. Denise Gagny-Kopewski is our Assistant Superintendent for HR, and Evelyn Collins is our Director for Gifted Arts and Talented Education. My mission is to ensure that Mount Vernon gives its students a rigorous teaching and learning environment that produces excellent students and gives everyone an opportunity for an incredible educational experience and a sense of belonging while helping students to grow intellectually, emotionally, and socially. Speaking of which, we're going to hear some questions from our babies now. We'll be right back.
Dr. Hamilton, I believe that literacy is the key to success. If you can't read, you can't learn. What is the district doing to improve the reading levels of the students?
That's a great question. Joining me now is our content supervisor for our literacy initiative, Dr. Gayle White-Wallace. Dr. Wallace, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dr. Hamilton.
So why don't you tell us, what are we doing as a district to address our literacy initiative here?
We are doing so many things to ensure that all of our students get the best literacy education they have in grades pre-K through 6th grade. We can start talking about our current curriculum. So for K through 2, we have the core knowledge curriculum, which provides our students with a vast literacy background in domains for science and social studies. In grades 3 through 6, our students go on a journey through expeditionary learning to learn through the New York State modules. But that's not the exciting part. We've got exciting things that get our students ready for reading. And you know what? You're the one who started this.
Talk about it. Let's hear it.
So, Dr. Hamilton, we are going to launch our Superintendent's Reading Initiative, where all of our students are going to be challenged to read 25 books by the end of the school year. Dr. Hamilton has provided us with tickets, reinforcements, and books for us to read. Over 2,000 books for every student virtually through our new social studies program. We have new level libraries through our social studies program, as well as level readers for our English program to support.
So what can parents expect? Once we roll this whole reading initiative forward, what can we expect in terms of outcomes?
Reading, reading, and more reading. Through your initiative, students are going to be reading independently, in school, at home, and during after school. We are going to ensure that all of our students have a true love for reading.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing in our district. I look forward to seeing more and more efforts come about to increase our literacy scores for all of our students, and you've been doing a fantastic job. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And as a student of Mount Vernon, it is my job to serve our community.
And you're doing it well. Thank you again for joining us.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Dr. Hamilton, when I was in elementary school, it was kindergarten to 6th grade. Now it's kindergarten to 8th grade. Why is that?
Welcome back to Soup Scoop. That was actually a great question. Joining me now are the two principals of our schools that have been reconfigured to K-8 configurations. With me now is the principal of Pennington School, Mrs. Danielle Davis Marrow, and from Graham School, Dr. Natasha Hunter McGregor. So, Mrs. Marrow, why don't you tell me, how is the K-8 configuration going at Pennington?
The K-8 configuration is going well at Pennington. Our program gives our children the opportunity to remain in the same building from pre-K all the way up through grade 8. The program offers the children a sense of community. We have wonderful teachers who engage our children in great activities daily, and I think it's a wonderful way to keep our community right here in Mount Vernon, remaining at our schools and hopefully moving on to our high schools as well.
Great. And so there's a lot of research about K-8 configurations and continuity of care. How is that transition working at Graham?
The program is going extremely well in the Graham community. We are extremely excited that we're able to keep our young people from pre-K all the way through grade 8. We're able to address their academic as well as their social emotional needs. Our support staff is very connected to our students, and we just feel that it's important for us to allow our children to be as young as possible for as long as possible.
Well, what's it like? What changes have happened in the building since this reconfiguration? What do you see different?
Well, our middle school staff is building upon our professional learning communities, and our middle school PLCs are working extremely well, focused on data, as well as focused on the social emotional needs of the students. We have tiered every student, so we are very clear about their needs throughout the school year and moving forward. We have our middle school students on the 3rd floor, and we find that we are able to work collaboratively with our families as well as our staff is working collaboratively not only within their middle school community but with our entire school community.
And what about Pennington? What are some of the challenges? All right, so we're hearing all this great stuff about K-8 configurations, but surely, as with any new initiative, there's some growing pains. What are some of the growing pains at Pennington?
Well, the biggest challenges, honestly, would be providing a very challenging, rigorous type of curriculum for the children. We want to make sure that our children are intellectually challenged. We have many children that are working at a very high level, and we just want to make sure that we can give them the rigor that they need to achieve on the high school level. Some of the wonderful things about helping our children to prepare them for high school are some of the great programs that our support service staff have brought into the building. We have so many outside agencies that have come in to help these children to better prepare them socially and academically for high school. So those are some of the wonderful things going on there.
As the new superintendent in Mount Vernon, one of the things that I'm concerned about is parity between the north and south sides of town. Now that we're in our new budget season, how much opportunity have the two of you had to collaborate on planning for the 15-16 school year and making sure that our youngsters in both communities get the same quality education? Why don't you start by telling us?
Well, Mrs. Mara and I, we do speak on a continuous basis. I would say that we definitely embrace additional opportunities to come together for our planning for the 2015-2016 academic school year. However, we try to ensure that our programs are aligned and that the services that are offered at Graham School are also offered at Pennington and vice versa. Okay. And I think we've been pretty successful with that thus far.
And what has your community been like? Have they embraced this continuity of care structure in Pennington?
Oh, absolutely. The community is very pleased to have a program that, once again, will allow the children to remain in the building from K through 8, a program that will prepare the children for high school, a program that is safe, an environment that is safe, a community of teachers and parents that really care. We have a program that really embraces our child, our children. So our parents have been very supportive. I'm sure you know that Pennington has a wealth of parent involvement, and that really helps us with what we're doing at our school to help us move in the right direction.
Excellent. So next year, as you add 8th grade on to your structure, what are you anticipating will be the ultimate outcomes, Mrs. Dr. Hunter McGregor?
I'm expecting our program to just build in a positive direction next year. We have the space to accompany the 8th graders. We are looking to further address their social emotional needs, continue with the programs that we have, look to partner with additional outside agencies, and as Ms. Marrow shared, we want to ensure that our higher achieving students are able to be challenged in the way that they need to be challenged.
That's a great segue into my final question for each of you, actually, and that is the continuum of learning that our children experience. So we have all these great programs in place for youngsters at the lower end of the continuum, basic skills and pull out, push in, all sorts of things. But there's a whole cadre of youngsters at the other end of the continuum that we often overlook. What are you doing at Pennington to address the needs of those youngsters who need enrichment opportunities? I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer that question as well.
We obviously do have children that need additional enrichment, and those children are involved in different types of programs, whether it's a pull-out program to provide additional enrichment in ELA or mathematics. We have early morning tutoring. Our middle school teachers actually start tutoring at 7:30 in the morning. We have after-school tutoring as well. And we have many teachers that will pull small group instruction to take those children to another area so that they can work on their individual needs and help build the skills that will be necessary for them to be successful high school students.
Excellent. And what about at Graham?
At Graham School, we are really seeking additional resources to help our students that are at the other end of the spectrum. However, for the students that are, they're mentoring. And they mentor during the day. They also work very closely with myself as well as with the counselor, the guidance counselor. We are working now with the STRONG program. So that has been an excellent resource through Mount Vernon Youth Bureau to support us. But our structure does not allow for morning school at this particular time, but that will be built in for next year.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what next year holds for us as we add 8th grade to both of your schools. I can't thank you enough for your leadership and what you do for our schools and our community. Thank you so much for being with us on Sup Scoop today. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Sup Scoop. Joining me now is our board president, Mr. Elias Gootzeit. Mr. Gootzeit, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to the public about where we are with our board goals and our strategic plan. So from your perspective, how are we doing?
I think we're doing remarkably well. We started out 3 years ago figuring out what to do to find us a new superintendent. That was our first goal. And 3 years later, we found somebody pretty outstanding.
Well, I appreciate that.
And beyond that, this year's been pretty incredible. In December, actually in October, when we went to the convention, we had a board retreat. Mm-hmm. And then we came back in December and did a goal setting with our community and issue identification. And from that, we've identified a methodology for evaluating our superintendent. And he's gotten a 6-month evaluation this month. And I think we're doing pretty okay.
I have to tell you, I'm really excited about being in Mount Vernon. I think it is a place that is filled with opportunity and possibility. There are some incredibly dedicated staff members in our community. Our students are exceptional. Our board has been extremely supportive. Is that a shift from what you're accustomed to in terms of the board's capacity in conjunction with the superintendent to develop the strategic plan and execute the plan?
In the first instance, we have a plan. That's not something we've had before. We have an audit committee that met. For years, we didn't have our mandated audit committee meeting. We're looking at reconfiguring schools. We're implementing K-8 programs this year. They've talked about it for years. I remember when Dr. Pertello was here in 1996, they were talking about K-8 implementation. But you've implemented it this year in 3 schools. That's pretty transformative, I think.
In an earlier segment of our show, we talked about the K-8 configuration, and the principals have testified that it's been a very smooth transition so far, and next year we'll of course expand that even further. One of the things that we've been talking about is parity between the north and south sides.
Yes.
Is that also a board concern to make sure that there's equity and parity between our schools?
It's not only north-south, but east and west. The reason why Graham School was so important to be a K-8 was there's no middle school model on the east side of the district. I don't know, we're always thinking about north and south of Lincoln Avenue, but there's also a problem with east and west of South Columbus, and that the access to middle school excellence and educational excellence has been missing. Graham used to be our math and science magnet, and it would invite all of the schools in the district to a math and science Olympics. And then the state, in their infinite wisdom, block granted all of the magnet money and made it so you could spread it to all of the schools, and therefore Southside schools couldn't have the enrichment that they needed. I don't know if that answers your question, but we've gone from a place where we were growing to a place where we had to catch up. And hopefully having a group of 9 trustees who don't always agree, but seem to have agreed on the superintendent, and identifying goals and objectives, and having a plan for meeting those goals, and then budgeting based on those goals. That's the plan. I don't think we've had that plan before.
Let's talk about the board, because since I've been in the district, I can certainly say that the board has been unified, and I give a lot of credit to your leadership for being able to do that. What do you think has been the main reason or the catalyst for bringing the kind of cohesion to the board that has created the capacity for us to set an example for our staff and students and to forge ahead with these goals?
There's a technique called alpha. You ever hear of alpha?
Tell me about it.
It's a method of thinking. And the difference between a genius and an ordinary person is a genius can think differently than ordinary people, and he could think more than ordinary people. That's the difference. And this year, that's what we've been doing. There never used to be president's conferences. We have president's conferences. Why? Because nobody said we couldn't. Okay, we have retreats. We have goal setting. We invite our community in to talk to us, not because anybody did it that way before, but because no one said we couldn't, so we did. There's a danger that we have right now, because unfortunately you're coming into a school district that's been failing. And the danger is that the concept of a school board of unpaid citizens administering a $250 million budget is in danger of being taken over by the state of New York because we've been a failing school district. And the shame would be that just as we're getting our ducks in a row and we've identified a forward-thinking educator to lead us, that the state of New York would think that they could do it better from Albany. And the real threat to us is that somebody's going to budget from someplace else, which they do because they tell us how to spend their money, and somebody's going to tell us how we could raise money, which they do, which they capped out at the 2% cap, but we've actually gone below the cap. Okay, we've done that now for 3 years, and we've figured out in your administration actually how to reconfigure where the funds are so we could pay for the cap that we've imposed on ourselves.
Exactly. And you've been very vocal, and I think that's a great segue into my next question. You've been very vocal about the state's failure to properly fund education in Mount Vernon.
Yes.
In fact, one would argue that the state has denied students the opportunity for success. Tell me what that journey has been like for you and what steps you're taking to try to reverse that trend.
Well, it predates being on the board. My son started in Graham School in first grade, and I've been a participant in the school district ever since. For better or for worse, sometimes superintendents appreciated it, and sometimes they don't. But in my culture, we outdistance the oppressors, and I guess that's what I've done. I've stayed here until we fixed it. At Graham, the building was sinking. We didn't have a cafeteria. When you go in there and you see the kitchen, and you go into a gym that's dry, we used to be under 6 inches of water, and we lobbied the school district to do a bond, and it became an emergency bond, and they fixed it because we could show them how much water was coming in the basement. Some folks will come in and take a look at our schools and the condition of our buildings and say, they're never going to fix this. This is deferred maintenance for 100 years. But community members have organized and put together an effort that changed how that gets done. It may not be good enough, but it's better than it was. And we now have a school board that gets elected because there are people who have skills who want to run. That's something, a major change. Okay, we have people on the board who are not divided by geography, and they're not divided by race, they're not divided by ethnicity. They're unified on the issue of what to do best for children. And they're also unified on the issue of how best to deal with a community where homeowners are on fixed budgets. And the argument in Albany is money is not the important issue when you're addressing children's needs.
Absolutely.
Okay, but in their conversation about what to do with a failing school district, they're saying, let's couple you with other failing school districts, right? The governor's last message was talking about he's going to take the failing urban small city schools and link them together under a private enterprise to administer them. If he wants to couple me with somebody, couple me with Scarsdale.
Right.
Couple me with the guys who are getting 93% success rates. Show me what their budget is. I'll do very well on that budget. But somebody's got to figure out how to pay for it. One of my major arguments over the years, and I guess I get elected because I have the argument, and I even find common ground with concerned property owners who never support me for this post, is on the issue of state responsibility for the condition we're in. There are 43 municipalities out of 46 in Westchester that took vouchers and told their poor people to come to Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon is with open arms taking the highest needs population in the county. But then they also told our homeowners to pay for that. So we have a 30% of our budget, for instance, not because of poverty, but maybe because of poverty, is spent in special education. And when people like Tom Keller ask you for beds numbers, and they're only counting the numbers of children who come to our schools, they're not counting how many children are going out of the district to BOCES, going to out-of-district schools, where the average cost per child might be $60,000 in an out-of-district placement, or in BOCES, $90,000 a child, when perhaps we could do those things in the district, but we don't have the resources to make them happen.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the president's conferences, which I think has been a great idea. How did you come up with the topics for those conferences?
By talking to people in the community, by finding that, for instance, the last conversation was about should non-citizen immigrants have the right to vote in school board elections, and realizing that perhaps half or more of our community is of immigrant origin. Well, all of us are of immigrant origin, except for a few, right? And we're not asking them to participate. And people participate to the extent that their participation is valued. And people are paying taxes for their houses, but they can't vote in our elections for the school district. That's a problem. Maybe we don't solve it because it's a state election problem, and we would have to lobby Albany, and we only have 3 state legislators in Mount Vernon. But it's an example of a place where our state legislators have to reach beyond our district to figure out a solution to our problem. We have a community of people who pay for our schools that don't use them. That's some of our middle class that have opted out in 5th and 6th grade. And then we have a community of people who use them who don't get to vote about the budget. That's about disenfranchisement, right?
Absolutely.
So that relates to why we changed the name of a school. And we had a conference in October about changing the Longfellow schools to the Turner Educational Park. The Turner family has a 350-year history in Mount Vernon. East Chester was based out of St. Paul's Church, and places like Asbury Methodist Church, the first Methodist church in the city of Mount Vernon, was one of the founders was somebody named Rebecca Turner. Okay, one of the schools will be named for Rebecca Turner. One of the schools will be named for her, was it her father? Benjamin Turner, who was the cemetery worker, who was an entrepreneur who, if you go down to St. Paul Church, that's a 350-year-old cemetery that includes African-American people. And we never studied the 350-year history of our city, and our children need to be proud of that. When East Chester was celebrating 350 years since their founding, they never told their community that they were founded in Mount Vernon on St. Paul's Church. So these are areas that we've missed over the years. Doing goal setting is part of that also. We forget that we have a community that pays our bills. We have parents that come to our schools. They all need to be part of what we're doing. Historically, we've had administrators that were afraid to have that happen. You let me get away with it. Like I said, the story of what the president is doing this year is a superintendent that's not afraid of collaborating. And that's very unusual.
Well, I appreciate that. So as we close this segment out, are you hopeful?
I think we're more hopeful in this district than we've ever been before. I think all the community has to do is walk down Gramerton Avenue on a day when all the schools are letting out at the same time and remember how you would stay off that street and the stores would lock their doors, and that's not happening today. And I think that comes from a school district that lets their children know that they're cared about and they're respected, but insists that we're respected and our community is respected at the same time. And in one day at your convocation, you brought that message to this community, and you've lived that message, and you've conveyed that to your staff, that nothing less is going to be acceptable. And that's gone down from our high school students to our kindergartners, and we're very lucky to have you.
Well, I'm very lucky to be here. I thank you for being on Soup Scoop today.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Soup Scoop. I'm Ken Hamilton, the Superintendent of Schools and your host. Be sure to tune in next time when we will be talking about our Gifted and Talented program, our new performing arts school that we will be launching next year, and to hear about some of the other great initiatives that are underway to restore and revitalize quality education in Mount Vernon. I'm yours for the sake of all children, Ken Hamilton, and we'll see you next time on Soup Scoop.
I am sensing a storm is coming, they're calling me out to play. Got a feeling I'm gonna win and they think that I don't have game. I a few falls I've